How much do digital marketers make? We'll tell you in this video. How much can digital marketers make? We'll tell you in this video. Let's go. This is however speed sound.
Is this part of your creative
Well,
process?
no, that's the intro song.
Oh, okay.
Intro
Okay.
song, you know what I'm
Got it.
saying?
You're
So
going through it.
I'm doing it. Okay. All right, so we are out here in Kaneohe, Hawaii. Okay. All right, so we are out here in Kaneohe, Hawaii. I have Brett from clickmill.co, a Christian marketing company, and he is going to give us some inside baseball as far as how much marketing companies or marketers, digital marketers can make from, starting out, maybe when he, maybe can share some numbers when he first started out, all the way to, what what he's heard in the industry and what other people are making. So take it away, Brett.
Awesome. Hey guys, Brett here, Click Mill. Yeah, so I guess I'll start where I started. And when I started, and I mentioned this in previous videos, but we started sending just thousands of emails by hand, moonlighting after both of my jobs, at night. And my wife was doing this with me. And the clients we were taking on were $200 a month. Now, looking back, I would never recommend someone take a client for $200, but I also didn't have anybody giving me any advice. So we were
He had no idea he was trying
I
to.
just slapped a price on it, and that was high to me. I was like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, if I could just have 10 of these,
yeah,
then I could quit my day job and it'd be 200.
it's
Like that
great.
seems reasonable. And then you start getting in and you realize, whoa, okay, there's actually a lot of work here.
Yeah.
And then you end up slowly phasing out anybody who's not willing to pay more than 200. And so there was a transition process because I charged too little in the beginning.
And in Brett's journey, because I was there the whole time, in Brett's journey at the time, he was in Florida.
Yep.
And then he still felt like he used to live in Hawaii for a period of time, and he always felt drawn to go back to Hawaii. And so Hawaii is like what, 3 or 4 times more expensive
It's like the most expensive place in the world to
than
live.
Florida. So
Yeah.
he's just starting out. He got maybe 10 clients at the time.
Yeah, we got our
And
first
now
10.
he feels like the Lord is still calling him back to Hawaii.
Yep.
Some different things fell into place to where it seemed like,
Yep.
for you and for your wife, it
Yep.
seemed like God had confirmed some things to her as
Yep.
well, to where it was like, all right, we're going to go for it. And
Not only that, but at the
Mhm.
time we couldn't even afford to live out here, and we
Yeah.
just happened to get this crazy deal on this place that we could
Yes.
actually afford that was way lower than the other rents. And we had someone out here who's like, yeah, we'll check it. They were an attorney. You
Yeah.
can't see these places sight unseen because people off island
Uh-huh.
don't show up. They don't follow through with commitments. So I
Yeah.
was like, hey, can I have my attorney come check it out? And I paid a buddy of mine $1, and he's like, yeah, I'll go look at it for you because he's an attorney. And they're like, oh yes, of course. So complete chance that we got back out here. So it did seem like God was kind of paving the way there.
Yeah.
But then of course we move out to like the most expensive place in the world.
And so this is the sort of, if you are an entrepreneur out here, there is a risk-taking factor in there to, going after it. And that Brett definitely embodies that and personifies that. All right. So you get out here, you have what, 10, maybe 10 clients at the time. So you're making what, like $2,000 a month?
At that point we'd been going, the first year we were doing this, we got our first 10, and then we brought on a few more, having been, because it'd been like another year prior to moving out here.
Yeah.
So, we had maybe like 15 small clients when we moved out. And that actually worked out really well for me because you when you come out, at least in Hawaii, it's very difficult to get out here because and what they do is, in order to get a job, or excuse me, yeah, in order to get a job, you have to show local residence. But in order to get a job, in order to get residence, you have to show that you have a job. And so you have to have both. So in order to move here, you have to just show. I know people who have moved here, and I've met people who just sleep in a tent on the beach until they can get a job. So they're like, yeah, I live on the beach. And then they get some, job, and then they can show the housing that they have a job. And so that's how they get here. And it's really rough. So you've either got to have a lot of money or be willing to sleep on the street.
Yeah.
Or you've got to have a location independent job and say, yeah, I own a marketing firm, and you just show up
And this is one of the very cool things about having a digital marketing company
Yeah.
is that Brett can be anywhere. You know,
Yeah.
he was in Florida, he came out to Hawaii, what, you know,
Yeah.
arguably the most beautiful place in the world.
Yeah.
And now he's starting out at the bottom, but at least he's here in this beautiful place that he wants to be. And so
Yeah.
from there, you know,
Yeah.
did you want to share further on in that journey, kind of like financially,
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
yeah, let me build on that. So when you start, especially if you start with like no advice, you're getting more advice than I had.
Mhm.
I knew how to run advertising accounts because I was trained by, these guys that kind of took me in and trained me in advertising, but they didn't know how to run business. They were figuring it out. So I got to watch a little bit, but I didn't have any advice. What you do is you have a whole bunch of time and no money. And as you bring in clients, you get less and less time and more money. Well, in my case, I charged too little. And so I had like less and less time and a little tiny bit of money. And so it actually stunted my growth for a couple years because I
Mhm.
had to basically start telling people like, hey, we love you, we care about you. Also, we got to raise our rates. And so we were raising rates and phasing out clients that weren't willing to pay more because the amount of work, was coming to like.
So this kind of brings up the 80-20 rule. Talk about that because that's a huge part of your life. And
Yeah, it is. And this is something we talk about on the back end of our subscription plan and everything, is a lot of these models for making decisions. And so we started out asking for so little money with these we didn't know, I didn't know how much work these accounts took at the time. And so we started asking for so little, and then you run out of time, so you can't grow anymore, but you've got clients that aren't really paying very much money. So what do? Well, you do this. It's 80-20 is from
Pareto,
the
Pareto.
Pareto
Yeah.
principle, which was a mathematician who said 20% of the fruit or 20% of the good stuff that you're getting, excuse me, 80% of the results that you're getting comes from 20% of your effort. And so much like, those of you who've read the 4 Hour Work Week, I went in and looked at the clients and I said, okay, which clients are bringing in 80% of our income? And it's like 2 clients are
Mhm.
bringing in 80%. And then I've
Wow.
got these other 12 or 13 clients that are paying nothing, basically. And they're creating the most problems. They're calling me in the middle because they don't know the value. Like they don't know how much works on the back end. And so they're just thinking, we're goofing off over here. And, they're trying to get the value. And the $200 means more to them than, the $600, $700, $800 means to the big clients
And
because
on the flip side, the
uh
20% of your clients cause 80% of your
of the problem.
headaches
Yeah.
oftentimes.
Yeah.
So like Tim Ferriss talks in 4 Hour Work Week, he says, you know, he just
Hmm.
decided to get rid of them. He
Cut
sent
him.
him a letter
Yeah,
and
he said you can follow these rules. You can pay your bills on time and stop giving me. You can't call my phone anymore. These are the rules. And he said only 3 of his clients, said no, I'm not going to do that. And so he
yeah.
just, he fired him politely, but he's like, I can't do that. And I remember one client, super awesome, in intention, but also extraordinarily anxious and did not understand boundaries. And I'm getting calls in the middle of the night with like panic there. She's panicking and it's
Mhm.
like,
I remember
I
that.
can't, oh my gosh, like I can't do it anymore. Like
Mhm.
this, I cannot function in my life and have this person just calling me whenever they want. It just throws everything into a tailspin. So the first thing I had to do was open up more time. And so I started raising prices and just saying, hey, we really want to do a good job for you. And right now we've just got to be bumping it up. So when the initial contracts expired, we started bumping those up after maybe the second year. And so we started phasing out a lot of the clients who were unwilling to go by new rules and follow the new contracts and things. And so we actually had a big dip, you know,
So
2 years in.
what was your face? Because I know that's a scary thing. Okay, you don't know if all of your clients are going to leave, but you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I just got to do this. So where did you go from 200 to 300? Where'd you go from? Where did you
Yeah,
jump? Where was your initial jump? Do you
well,
remember?
this is great. Yeah, so I went from 200 and then I kind of went to, and this was on one particular service, but I went from 200 and then we just were like, okay, we'll start charging 300 and then people are like, okay, with new clients.
Mhm.
So some new clients came in, it's like, well, 300 and they're like, okay. And then we're like, okay, well, how about 400 with some new
Yeah,
clients? And then they're like, okay.
because you don't
And
know.
yeah, you don't know until everybody starts telling you no, you're like, okay, well, I guess that
That's
is
my
where it's capped
market.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of found a good spot with that. And we've seen what other people are charging. It seems to be roughly in that vicinity.
Hmm.
And that's 400, 500, something like
Hmm.
that. for that service every month. And um, what was the question?
Yeah, I was just kind of going from, okay, you started at 200,
Right.
you went to 400. So, okay, so let me ask you a new question.
Mhm.
Okay, so you ended up through learning what the market allows you to charge,
Right.
you ended up say around 400 or 500 a month. Now,
Oh, yeah. Can I add?
yes, yes,
Right. I've lost my train of thought. Okay. So, yeah. So we started kind of bumping up, and then I was being asked to do some consulting. And the consulting, I was just like, okay, $40 an hour
right. This is
because
great.
again, having started from like, I didn't grow up with money. I didn't grow up with people who owned businesses. I didn't know any of this stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure it out. And it's like 40 an hour. If I was making 40 an hour, it'd be crazy.
Yeah, at Haverty's, you're
Right.
making what, 10, 12
Who
bucks,
knows?
whatever.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not even, yeah. And so
So
it's
you're
like
thinking 40 an
40 an
hour
hour is
to talk
great.
about something that I'm
Oh my
working?
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so and so yeah, so I start charging 40 and I just left it there. I never even thought to raise it. I was like, this is great. But then none of the clients they're paying for consulting are listening to the advice. And I'm like, man, these people are so hard to work with. And at
This
that
is
point,
great, yeah.
I got my mentor. So I actually bumped into another really Christian, godly guy who, aligns with my worldview and everything and runs a very large, multi-million dollar a year marketing firm. And I'm like, would you mentor me?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. Day one, we sat down. He's like, you need to charge $150 an hour and you do it yesterday.
Okay,
Yeah.
he's at $40 an hour,
Yeah.
and this guy, his mentor just comes in and is like, "You need to be at
we looked at
150."
we looked at numbers, we looked at everything, and he's like, okay, it looks like you did get your prices for this service. And he's like, now you need to offer more services because you got this, put someone over that, and you need to offer other services and start bringing in clients, and all your consulting needs to be 150 an hour.
So that's like 4 times.
Yeah, it's like over triple. And he's like, tomorrow you reject
Wow.
everything under 150. And I was like, no one's gonna pay for that. No one's
That's what you think,
no
right?
way. And then no, he's like, no, more people will pay for it. And I was like, I don't get it.
That's
I upped it to 150. And now I primarily just do a lot of consulting and the marketing I have my team do. But it's like we have more people wanting consulting than ever wanted to consult. And they're happier to pay for it. The people who are only willing to pay 40 an hour really value that $40 and they're going to try to wrestle. Oh, I'll only do 30. People who have 150 an hour to pay, they're like, yeah, no problem. That's normal for consulting. And they listen to it because they know the value of the $150.
Okay, so let me say that, being in music, when I'm trying to get my name out there and stuff, and normally back in the day, people would just, sell their CD for 10 bucks. And then it's like, well, nobody wants to pay $10. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it away for free. As soon as I start going away and giving my music away for free, nobody cares. Nobody wants the music. Why?
Trash is free.
Yeah, why? Because I've now placed a value on that music. I'm now telling people my music is worth nothing. Will
Right.
you listen to it?
Don't give away your album for free.
Yeah, don't do that. Okay. And so, in the same way, Brett, when he was doing it for $40, he had a certain clientele that wouldn't even listen to his advice because, hey, this guy's only doing $40. But when he upped it to 150, first of all, it moved him into a different clientele. The people who couldn't pay that, they didn't even ask.
They phased out.
They phased out. And then because people are paying more money, they're more willing to listen to
Yeah.
that advice. So it's really crazy how the psychology, think about when you go to the store and something costs, it's like it could be two of the same exact thing, but one brand is charging you 20 bucks and the other brand's charging you 40 bucks. In your mind, you're kind of like, well,
That must be better.
that must be better.
And
And so,
and the same thing follows with charging a higher rate. If you're charging 150, they just assume that you're worth 150
yeah,
because you're charging it. You must have the confidence, you must have the experience. And in that case, I did. I just didn't ever have anybody telling me what to price stuff at.
yes,
And so, I did have the experience for 150, but they would just assume it even if you didn't. So it's
yes,
not to say that we should be dishonest, but at the same time, the price infers the experience level.
yeah.
So
Okay, awesome. So talk about you're kind of on the cusp right now of
Mhm.
just exploding with your company.
Seems like that.
You're already doing over 1,600 people coming to your website every day. You have your subscription service that's really doing great. You got
Yeah.
people from all over the world coming in,
Mhm.
interning, watching your videos. So what have you heard you talked about your mentor. Talk
Yeah.
about some of the potential for what people can earn
Yes.
as a digital marketing company that are watching right now.
Awesome.
What sort of numbers could they potentially earn if they go through the process and the steps and
Great.
learn the training maybe at clickmail.co. Go to your
Mhm.
thing, learn the training. What can they hope to one day earn?
Well, and I'll start with this. Um, what my mentor recommended to me is base everything off of a $150 an hour rate. So if it takes you 4 hours to fulfill a service every month, then it's 150 times four, and that's the package price. And that's pretty good. Now, if inflation continues to go up and it goes up another, 20, 30, 40, 50% in the next 4 or 5 years, then it's going to be 200 an hour, and that's going to
Mm,
be normal. So that's something to consider. But, right now it's 150 an hour. And so if it's a 4 hour a month service, then it's 150 times four. If it's a 10-hour a month service, then you've got that. So that's going to be my initial thing. And I would say shoot for when you're starting. I started at $200 a service. And I mean, these were like way more, I was like, a dollar an hour. I don't even know because it was, you're not efficient yet. You're not exactly got the skill. And so it was really low. I would say if you're going to land your first client, try to start at $1,000 a month. Like
wow.
when you reach out, minimum service is 1,000,
Mm,
unless it's something like, let's just say, a low end Google Ads account. And then, again, if it's like 4 hours and you're just going to stack ads accounts, then cool, you know, $400 a month. Start at that $300 a month. And then you can put in some other things to build that. But either way, definitely not less than 4 or 500 a month for an account that takes a couple hours a month. But if you're doing something like search engine optimization and you're going to be offering an SEO service, minimum 1,000, because you don't want to charge too little on the front end because you're going to be stuck with them for a while, and you don't want to tank your reputation by not fulfilling your promise. You don't want to charge too little either. And the encouragement I would say is this: there's always someone who's willing to pay more. So when you start, you do have a limited number of opportunities. And the more you build your reputation, the more you've got clients who are like, oh, we love these guys. Here's some friends. I just had an intern say, hey, are you taking interns? And it's like, yeah,
mhm,
we're looking. And so when people get to know you because you're meeting needs, they'll go do marketing for you.
mm,
And so firstly, if everybody knew that, I'd be out of business, because if you just do whatever you do really well long enough, you don't need marketing.
mm,
That's something my mentor told me. He's like, I don't do any marketing. I market for other people. They do my marketing because I do a good job. And it's like, that tells you something.
mm,
Um, but at the beginning, you've got a limited number of opportunities. And so, you do have to kind of take maybe some lower end clients, or, discount a little bit on the front end, but you don't want to do it too much. If you're patient, you will come across at some point people who are willing to pay a little bit more. And so I'd say balance it, between what you can get and being patient to wait to get something good. So
awesome.
I would say that. And then as they come in, yeah, I mean, my mentor takes minimum $6,000 a month clients, and then obviously that's the marketing fees.
Mm,
And so if they're paying for advertising, it's on top of that, and they pay a percentage of that. And if they're wanting extra consulting or training or anything, it's $150 an hour on top of that, and so it can build up very quickly. So, what do we do right now? We're breaking into multiple 5 figures a month, which when I started, would have been like, that's crazy.
mind blowing, yeah.
And also, I would say that's actually kind of small fish for
Mm,
a lot of marketing companies.
wow.
That's kind of beginning. Once you get 4 or 5 clients, I mean,
Mm,
that are over $1,000 a month, you start moving into 5 figures. So maybe 5 to 10 clients. Um,
per month.
per month, right? And so from the perspective of you're trying to get out of your day job, which been there, I had multiple day jobs and trying to get out of those. and replace it with $2,000 a month would have just been the craziest thing it was. I remember it.
Mhm.
And now being in marketing and you've got a team and you've got to do all these things and pay for these different things, which is, the what do I want to say? The cost of doing business is relatively low. Don't get a physical location. Maybe I'll start with that.
Mhm.
My buddies that I started with and they trained me, they had a $3,000 mortgage per month to get a banner over a door.
Yeah.
Waste of money.
Wow.
Work from your house, like sit on your couch.
Mhm.
It's a professional advice. Don't waste the money on rent unless you absolutely need to, because you pay for a few softwares every month and you're gonna make a really good margin on the front end. Maybe later you can get brick and mortar, but you just don't need it on the front end. But anyway, so yeah, so for me, we're pushing multiple 5 figures a month, and and in regard to my mentor and other people, it's just scaling. It's just, as your time gets tight and your money goes up, you exchange the money for a team member or, whoever it is that does it, AI or automation software, and then you get more time back. So you're always just repaying money for more time and you're making sure you're making a profit in the process.
Mhm.
So your money is slowly going up every month while you're exchanging the money for more time,
Mhm.
and you're just always buying your time back until at the end you have all your time and the whole thing's automated and you can just step away and live a life with passive cash flow. That's, one of my goals.
Mhm.
I don't want to not work, but I want to do only the work that I want.
Mhm.
Like this is super fun.
Yeah.
In regard to like my mentor, you're talking about multiple 7 figures a year. So
So
that's,
millions of dollars.
yeah, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And
Uh-huh.
so
And
whatever
that's
that means,
yeah, that's his company that is making that,
right.
and then of course he's doing very well
Yeah.
based on that.
And that's just the company. Once you have that type of cash flow, you can start looking at investing in other companies that other people run.
Mm.
And so some of those, not all of them, but some of them will be profitable and then produce returns that also pay you. And you can see
So
how you could very quickly
so
kind of
you
step
could
out.
for people watching, you could make starting your digital marketing at nothing. You could eventually get to a point where you're making over $1 million personally.
For sure.
Wow.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's
Um,
an awesome industry
yeah.
that
And
you could get into.
And I would say that's true with any good business
Mhm.
if you're making decisions the right way. If you don't, if you're the one thing that I think is so difficult is not getting the clients or running anybody can learn marketing, but it's how to make decisions, because the decision comes from the word "scissio," which I believe in the Latin, I believe it's Latin, but in the original language, I think is Latin, means scissors, to cut off from. Scissio, scissors,
Mm.
incision. Okay. And that means every time you make a decision, you're sacrificing something, you're losing something.
Mm.
Well, if you're not trained in how to make very strategic decisions, you end up cutting off the wrong stuff and then you stunt your growth forever.
Mm.
I had to cut off from everyone who wasn't willing to pay 40 an hour. Well, that's everybody I had.
Mm.
So I'm going to lose all of those people and phase all of them out in hopes that these magical $150 an hour clients show up.
Mhm.
And now there have been times where I've had $500 and $1,000 an hour situations. I'm not directly billing it that way, but the way the numbers worked out, that actually happens.
Mhm.
And so, you've got to be willing to cut, and that's the decision, but you have to cut right, because if you cut the wrong thing, you just killed the thing that was making all the like 80/20.
Yeah.
You cut the wrong 20% and you're toast,
Yeah.
or it sets you back years, which, is, in my case, I brought on people too low and that took years. So when you make decisions, you have to know how to make them correctly. And that's one thing we go into a lot in the subscription plan over at ClickMill, is just tons of models. And actually, I'll point on my shelf here, up there, the white and red books. Those are all books on just how to make decisions to create the best results.
Mhm.
And so that's probably the most important skill. And if you can get that right, yeah, anybody. I mean, I started broke. I lived in a $300 a month apartment. My wife and I moved in, and you remember the apartment.
Of course.
And we moved in, and I remember, it's so funny. She cried when we moved into this place. And the walls, I don't know if you remember, the walls we didn't know the color. We couldn't figure out if it was vomit color or flesh. but they were some kind of weird yellowy orangey paint color, and the floors were so dirty. You'd slide around on them, and
Yeah.
we had to I scrubbed for days to just get the floors to not have some kind of film on. It was the worst.
Wow.
And it's like, so that's where you come from,
Yeah.
and so you can go from there, and it's been 5 years
Yeah.
and be pushing.
Yeah, we were in that apartment hanging out, and he's pushing his dream. He's going
Yeah.
after his dream. I'm going after my dream, trying to build, Welcome to Truth or
Yep.
this platform. And yeah, interesting.
So you definitely can, even if you're starting from nothing. I didn't get anything coming out in regard to business or financial acumen. I had nothing coming out of my home at 18, and just figuring it out. And 5 years in, you can be doing probably a lot better than me. Honestly, it took me longer because I didn't have anybody with advice to give it. But once I started getting that advice, it started coming very quickly. And my mentor is 10 years beyond me, and he started himself and built everything. And he's making multiple millions a year.
Mm,
And I think the critical element is, can you make the decision, like we've talked about, you and I, is like focus on the 80/20.
yeah,
And you for a long time were like, well, it's all just kind of creative endeavor, and I'm just going
yeah,
to do a lot of things, and
yeah,
that maybe slowed your progress. But
sure,
now that you've monetized some channels,
yeah,
you're like, oh, I get to do the creative thing and the thing that makes money, and you're
yeah,
focusing the attention. And that's a decision. You've cut off the creative things
yeah,
that aren't profitable, and you've
mm,
focused on the things that you love and are creative and are profitable.
yeah,
And that's gonna grow exponentially because you're just channeling it into
yeah,
I think that's a decision making model. So to that end, that's kind of how that looks. And yeah, if you're watching this, there's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about Juke. There's no Wizard of Oz. It's just like some short dude behind a curtain. Like, we're just a short dude behind a curtain. We just put in the reps, and you
bald, short, bald dude.
yeah.
Um, awesome. Well, if you want more marketing information, he has a awesome course, compilation of course subscription service over at clickmill.co. So go check that out, link in the description section. And check out this next video. He was talking about, as a digital marketing company, having subscriptions. And we're going to talk about one of those subscriptions right now called SEM Rush. So if you want to know how to do keyword market research, check out this video right here on SEM Rush. We'll see you over there in the next video.